for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, first of all, please allow me to congratulate Mexico on assuming the presidency of the Security Council in the month of November and wish the Mexican presidency every success. And of course, express our gratitude to Kenya and the permanent representative Kimani and his entire team. Thank them for the excellent presidency we had in the month of October. Mr. President, we are very concerned about yet another and unprecedented during the entire post-war period worsening of the internal political situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And this situation is compounded by the irresponsible action on behalf of a number of external forces. As a result of this, all of the accomplishments of a long and laborious process of national reconciliation are now seriously threatened. Russia, as one of the guarantors of the Dayton agreements, cannot remain indifferent to what is going on. And we are not going to accept with what is being demonstrated by a number of our colleagues, namely their dismissive attitude towards the sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina, behind which there is a lack of desire to step outside of the image of a guardian of Bosnia and Herzegovina, who has the right to dictate to the Bosnians how they are to build their state and how they are to govern their country. The high point of this protectionist attitude on behalf of Western colleagues was the unseemly ruckus surrounding the office of the High Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the actions of those who was or claims to be in this post also speak for themselves. At first, the former High Representative Insko, at the end of his mandate, decided that he has the right, as though he were an autocrat in that country, to introduce the well-known amendments in the criminal code of Bosnia and Herzegovina against the opinion of the Bosnian sides. And of course, such an egregious high-handedness immediately fueled the fire and provoked a new spiral of disagreements and deleterious rhetoric amongst the peoples of the country who have yet not fully recovered from the consequences of the conflict. And colleagues, in circumvention of the Security Council, tried to appoint Mr. Christian Schmidt to be High Representative. And this was done in a way which was unceremonious, in violation of international law, and in violation of established practice of appointing to this post. And we would like to underscore, to make sure that there are no illusions here, the post remains vacant. There is no High Representative or candidate to be a High Representative today. We do not have. By the way, I'd like to say that the fact that we were correct in our stance is confirmed by the document circulated to the Council on the 30th of October, the document which probably by inertia was called the Report of the High Representative. We would like to draw your attention in this regard to the fact that the Security Council has no reasons to take in and or consider peoples coming from private persons. Otherwise, what could happen is a very serious blow to the authority of the Security Council and the UN as a whole. Discussing the content of these documents is not something that we plan to do. Let me simply say that this is an extremely biased and anti-Serb document, the likes of which we haven't seen for a long time. It is aimed at resolving just one goal: to destroy any glimmers of understanding, peace, and cooperation amongst the peoples living in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And this product continues with the destructive and irresponsible statements and initiatives by Mr. Valentin Itzko. We would like to suggest that you become acquainted with the alternative report by Republika Srpska, which was circulated to the Security Council under the number S2021-910. We also regret that the statements today by the permanent representative of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Alkalaya, does not have the support of all of the entities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Mr. President, if anyone still has doubts about the fact that the Office of the High Representative has stopped being an instrument for the purpose of national reconciliation, when the disseminated document removes those doubts, it is quite obvious the Office of the High Representative has become a source of huge problems which are threatening the whole Dayton construction for Bosnia and Herzegovina. So I would like to ask my colleagues who are pushing the illegitimate schemes of keeping the office of the High Representative and its dictatorial functions, what is it that you're trying to do? Why are you trying to bury the fragile peace in a country which is at the very heart of Europe? And how do your actions correlate with the principles of democracy and independence, which you are so eagerly pushing forward in other situations? Where do these double standards as regards to Bosnia and Herzegovina come from? Mr. President, the eager pushing forward of a number of Bosnian participants and the outside forces of the unitarization of the country runs counter to the principles we have in the peace agreement, the principles of the equality of three peoples and two entities with broad constitutional powers. There is a growing pressure on the representative of the Serbian entity of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we would like to warn against switching concepts and placing the blame for what's happening in the country exclusively on the Serbs. We note with regret that demonizing of everything Bosnian Serb has become, in the recent time, almost a central element of policy for a number of internal Bosnian external forces. And the ultimate goal here is clear. It is a revision of the Dayton architecture. As a means of attaining this goal, what is being used are open and growing threats of using unilateral and therefore unlawful sanctions. We are convinced, and we're repeating this year in, year out, that the guarantee for success for ethnic reconciliation is an equitable internal Bosnia dialogue without external interference. We are convinced that full responsibility for what is happening in Bosnia and Herzegovina and for its future should lie with the legally elected bodies of power in line with their mandates. Trying to extend good offices without the agreement of the parties is, as we can all see, leading to the opposite effect. And this applies also to such a topical issue for Bosnia and Herzegovina as a reform of the electoral system. This solution has to be found by the peoples of the country, and that is the only way it will be lasting and implementable. We can see that what is topical here is the goal of making sure that there is adequate and legitimate representatives in the bodies of power at all levels. External recipes, appointing special representatives on this issue is counterproductive and could only complicate things. Mr. President, the Security Council has been dealing with the issue of Bosnia and Herzegovina already for 26 years. And the steering board of the Peace Implementation Council has only been functioning for as long. But there's probably today that we're seeing the greatest disunity in these bodies, and we also have never seen such a goal to have a zero-sum game. And this is a blow to the authority of the steering board and the Security Council. At the same time, especially now, the convergence of the approaches of the international community on these issues and the responsible behavior would be very, very timely. In this regard, we're very grateful to the informal French penholders of the Bosnia dossier this year and also the Mexican presidency, who managed to bring the Security Council to the only possible common denominator and ensure that we have the unanimous extension of the Euro4 Althea mandate. At the same time, we think that what we need, and it doesn't matter where it is in Sarajevo, in New York, or in capitals, what we need is a specific, equitable, and based on the interest of the entire Bosnian society and region, discussion of how to end up as quickly as possible the harmful outside trusteeship of the Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also a discussion of how we can constructively help the country in national reconciliation. As one of the state guarantors of the Dayton Agreement, we are convinced that the Framework Peace Agreement has no alternative and that its mechanism for balancing the interests of three peoples is quite effective. Attempts to destroy it are fraught with serious consequences in the Balkans and Europe as a whole. We fully support and will continue supporting the fundamental principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina, equality of three constituent peoples and two entities with broad authorities. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation.